Hey everyone, this is Mr. Isometric, and in this video, we are going to learn how to convert this photoscanned asset into something low poly. So, suppose if you're making a game and you need this asset somewhere in the background, but as you can see that this has a lot of poly count. Now, there are other ways, the faster ways to do this, like to decrease the poly count. Like some people will ask you to add a decimate modifier, and even if you have a really nice mesh like this. So this is all quad topology. So whatever photo scanning asset was being used, it did a really great job in converting all those details into this nice quad topology. So because of that, now what you can do is you can use something unsubdivide, and to see the changes in real time, you can turn on the wireframe like this. And now if I go ahead and unsubdivide this, the maximum I can go is, I think, yep, after 6 I don't see any changes. So going beyond that to like 7, it hardly is making change. So this is like the minimum you can go with this technique. And as you can see, we got like 2884 face count. So double that, that is the vertex count, I think. So if we use collapse now, and if I collapse it, you'll see that without losing any detail, I think this is the best I can do. And now this is also good. Like this could work. We almost got like 527 face count, um, which is not bad, but also you don't have more control over this. You can though use this as your base mesh, and you can optimize it a little bit more for the thing that we are going to do next in this tutorial. But what I prefer is not to use decimate modifier, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off the wireframe mode. Now, what I like to do is first I like to enclose this mesh with my own mesh. So what I'm going to do is create a new collection, and let's call it a low poly version of this thing. Now you can name this anything you want. Now there are two ways to create the low poly version. You can either retopologize it manually, or you can go ahead and create something from scratch. So for this video, I was actually going to go ahead and remesh it by using this add-on, the Topo Flow. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create the thing manually, and then I'm going to use shrink wrap to shrink wrap it around as much as I can, so that it matches my original mesh itself. So we have a cube now, and this is mostly a rectangle right now, so we don't have to use a planar mesh. But yeah, we can like just get away with it for now. We can also rename this like low poly version. And yeah, let's now just get started by enclosing this all around it. So we are going to stress test it a lot. So let's see how far we can take this. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a cube before. So let's just make it somewhere over there. You can also go into the X-ray mode and then enclose it. To go into the X-ray mode, you just have to press Alt and Z. Also, you can use snapping mode. So recently Blender has added a really nice snapping modes. So we can go ahead and select the, let's say, faces, and then we can go ahead and snap it to any face that we see. So this way you don't have to like go ahead, and you can select the maximum surface that we have currently. So I can snap it over there, I can snap this over there, and let's go ahead and take this and snap somewhere over there. And if you select this vertex, and then if I hold down control, it only snaps at that moment. So you don't have to like constantly have it turned on like that, or else, like, I mean, you can if you want, if you like it, but I don't like it. I like to like just hold down control whenever I want it to snap. In that way I can like first position my vertex, and then I can snap it like that. Okay, so now this is like the most low poly that we can go, which is 4 vertex. Now I'm just going to go ahead and add 2 loop cuts, one in the center and one at over here. And now we are going to do the same thing. We are going to try and encapsulate this again, something like that, something like that. So we have now started encapsulating in general overall shape of this mesh. Now again, I'm going to go ahead and add two more loop cuts over there. And yeah, I think we should also add two more loop cuts over there. And again, we are going to go ahead and snap it again on the mesh itself. Now at this point I could just use shrink wrap modifier, but I'm not going to do that. So now instead of snapping, I think I'll just go ahead and pull them out like this. And as I said that we need to encapsulate it, so from that I mean is that you need to make sure that our low poly mesh is actually covering it mostly, like it is protruding out, like all the vertex they should be out most of the time. You should see your vertexes like that. So I cannot see this one, so I have to make it in the front like that. I can definitely see that one, so I'll just do this. We can also go ahead and make it out like that. Let's also pull this one out. And there is another reason to do this. uh, if we are creating a mesh like this, then we can easily use subdivision surface, and then you can again, if you want to go a little bit more, if you can afford it, and if you want to have more poly count later in the future, all you have to do is just add a subdivision modifier and then use shrink wrap, and then after shrink wrap, you can just go ahead and bake it again. And we are going to use baking, by the way, for this method. So this looks pretty good. Now this is the maximum low poly that you can go, like the minimum, I mean not maximum, the minimum low poly. I feel like I should definitely add more poly count over there, just over here, and nothing nowhere else. And I can just place it a little bit more above like this. I can take this one and then I can move it a little bit more above like that. Let's go ahead and take this one and let's move it above like that. Yeah, as I said, we are going to stress test it, so I'm not gonna go ahead and add any more geometry. So yeah, let's hold down to this spot now, and we are going to go ahead and shade it smooth. Yeah, now the first thing you gotta do is I actually shaded this smooth, and this is also shaded smooth, I think. Yep, it is. So now let's split our window, and you can do it however you want. So now our high poly mesh, it has this material on it, and now this material has two textures, which is diffuse and normal. So we are going to bake that onto our low poly version. So select your low poly version and then go ahead and add a material, low poly matte. So now we are going to create first the color image, so image texture. And now this is set to 4K. By the way, if your is 1024, all you need to do is just type in multiply and then press 4, and it will automatically convert it to a 4K image. So I'm just going to name this as diff 1. We don't need alpha channel, so I'm not gonna click it, and click new image. Now this image is now taken the color of this one. So I'm just going to plug that into the base color. You don't need to do that. I'm just gonna do it anyways. And just to be sure, what we can do is now shift A and then add a UV map node. Now when you add UV map node, it is just something that I do as a precaution, so that if you have multiple UV maps, it only bakes on this certain UV map that I have plugged in. So this is just something that I do as a precautionary thing. So first thing is we gotta select our high poly mesh, and then hold down control and then click on your low poly mesh. And once you do that, make sure that your image is selected. And then let's go to the render settings, and then you have to make sure you are in Cycles render engine. Your device is set to either GPU or CPU depending upon what faster hardware you have. If your CPU is faster, use that, but I will definitely prefer GPU because GPUs are better in doing all the things. So your maximum render settings, they have to be not too high but also not too low. So something in between like 64 to 500 is really good value, so you can use that. Denoising, I'll just check that. I don't think it matters, but yeah, I'm just going to check that. Now let's go back in the baking section. Now usually this will be something like this in your case. So the first thing you got to do is change this to diffuse. So diffuse is our color information, and then you have to uncheck your direct and indirect. They might be checked in yours. These are the lightings, our scene lighting, and I don't want any scene lighting to be baked on top of my color texture. Okay, so now the next thing you gotta do is check the selected to active and the extrusion. Now if I change, I'll just keep the extrusion for 0 for now, and we'll see why it is important. Make sure that your image is set to clear image, so every time you bake, it clears the before baking. So if you're baking once or twice, then it will clear the image first and then bake again on top of it. And the margin size is set to 1 pixel. So this 1 pixel, it might be set to like something very high, which is 16, and we don't want that. We want it to be something very low, like 1 or 2 pixels. If your UV map is something, oh, and by the way, we need to unwrap this first before baking. I totally forgot about it. So let's do that. Let's go to the UV editor, select our low poly mesh, and I'm just going to go be lazy and just do a smart UV project. You can manually unwrap this if you want, but smart UV project will do just fine. We can increase this. I think this is actually good. The 66 angle was really good. Okay, so now we are going to select everything, or you can just press Control. Okay, just press A twice. Go to the UVs and then do average island scale. Now, after doing average island scale, you gotta go ahead and pack islands. Now, I'm going to make this 0.02. For the margin, rotation and scale, I'll keep that. Usually I don't like to rotate anything, but in this case we can. So let's just hit pack. And the thing about margin is that it is set to 1 pixel. So our texture, whenever we bake, it will bleed like 1 pixel outside. So the thing is, if you set it to something high, then it might like try to blend in or try to push back the texture over there, so in between them. So that's why, to avoid any glitches in textures, we gotta set the size margin to 1 or 2 pixels. More than that is not needed. So now that we are done with this, we can safely bake it now. So again, select your high poly, hold down control and select your low poly, and now we are ready to bake. Let me just make sure that I have selected the image texture in the low poly. Yes, selected to active is checked. Now let's just hit bake. Now this will bake all the color information, but we are going to get an error while doing it, because as you can see, our low poly mesh, it is clipping through our high poly mesh a lot, and that is a little bit of a problem which we can solve with this extrusion and max ray distance. Though max ray distance, I'll say that just keep it at 0. Usually you have to play with max ray distance whenever you're baking normal map. So any yellowish value that you get in normal map, that can be solved with the max ray distance setting. So as you can see in this image, whatever the part that was being clipped, so as you can see, we have a little bit of clipping over here. That part didn't get baked, and to solve that, we can have a little bit of extrusion. Now this extrusion doesn't change anything on the mesh itself, but it kind of makes it inflate. You can say like your this mesh, or whatever the rays that are calculating it, they will calculate it outside and inside a little bit of your low poly mesh. So I just made it 1 meter, and I'm just going to go ahead and click on bake again. So it is done baking, and as you can see that the image texture that we bake, it is almost flawless. So we have now baked our color image. The first thing you should definitely do is to save your image. So save it somewhere, anywhere, like on the desktop or wherever you want. I'm just going to save it on the desktop. I'll just call it as images texture. Okay. And I'm just going to save this by zero compression and then RGB colors, and just hit on save. And once you save it, you'll get this options unmarked. So now you can change stuff with this. Also, there is also one more thing. If I take this, wait, let me first go ahead and selection to cursor. Okay, so now as you can see, our low poly version, it looks a little bit different. Like it is, color is not same, so the color, it looks a little bit different, and as you can see, it is very low poly. By the way, all these things, the shadowing things, it will be fixed when we bake the normal as well. So before that, let me just select the high poly, and as you can see, it has a roughness value of 1 and the specular value of 0. So I'm just going to make that changes. So roughness value of 1 and the specular value, let's just make it 0. So they will look a lot alike. Okay, in the rendered view, yep, the color and everything, it looks better. Okay, so now let's go ahead and bake our normal map. I'm just going to move it back to its original place like that. Okay, so now for baking normals, we have to select our low poly again. Do not disturb anything with the UV map. I'm just going to go ahead and hit Control Shift and D so that this link stays connected. And now I'm going to click on this cross button, click on new, and we are going to create normal one. I'm just going to call this as normal one. And okay, I forgot to click on enter, and we are going to create a new image. Okay, this image is going to be non-color, and we need another node, which is normal map. Okay, there you go. And now I can select it on the color, and let's put it inside the normal map. Okay, so now make sure that you have selected your normal image and not your diffuse image, or else it will be baked on top of it. So yeah, now I have selected my this image. Let's go ahead and select our high poly and then low poly. Change the bake type to normal like this, and we are going to keep the extrusion to 1 meter, and then just go ahead and click on bake. And now let's just wait for it to bake everything. This might not take long because it is normal map, and whatever you bake, it will automatically change the image to that image after it is done baking, to for you to preview. So do not close this UV editor window, because it is really helpful in that case. So let's wait for it to bake. Okay, so it is done baking, and this is really nice result. Like we don't see any bad baking, though we definitely can see it over there, but no, we don't need to fix that much. But yeah, this looks good. So now what are we going to do is hide our high poly right now, and let's look at it in the rendered view. So in the rendered view, as we now have our normal map as well, it is going to react with the lighting, and it is looking pretty good. Let me just go ahead and do this again. So cursor to selected. Let's have our high poly back, and let's move them sideways, and let's compare them both. Like you can, you basically can't tell a difference apart from the jagged corners over there. If you want more details over that part, you can just go ahead and add more geometry over that part a little bit more, and then that issue will also be gone. But pretty much really good. Like this is such an optimized thing. So now we went from almost 12,000 words to 136 words, which is such a massive difference. And damn, it is really amazing. Like if this was some background prop, then this would actually work really well. Also, you might see that we kind of lost the details over there, but we can gain them back again. But before that, let me just go ahead and save this normal map also. So zero compression, and let's just save it. So now we are almost set up to experiment with this thing again. So I'm just going to move it back over there. And now let's select our low poly version again. And now I'm going to add, we could add details manually. If I add a loop cut like this, and then if I move this mesh like that, just to have more details. I can also add a loop cut over here, and then I can move this outside. Doing this is much more preferable, as you will get more control over your mesh. So I can move this one outside as well. If I take this, I can move this outside. Also, now you have more details on top. So do this. So you need to, in general, encapsulate your mesh like this. Let's take it up like that. Let's take it up like that. Okay, good. Also for the bottom details, you should definitely move them like this. Now the great way to do this is shrink wrap modifier, as I said. So now we got more details over there, and then we can also do the same thing over here. I added a geometry over there, so now I can move it outside like that. Let's move this one outside. Let's move this out. Let's go ahead and let's move this out as well. There you go. Okay, we could also go ahead and add a loop cut over this baseline so that we can move everything like that as well. So I'm going to do that, but before that, let me just move everything like this. So by this method, you have more control over everything, and I really like having control over my geometry so that it flows according to my needs. And this is really like ability to make changes is a very powerful thing that a 3D artist can have. So if you're working in a job and if your boss suddenly says that we need to optimize it a little bit more, then you are ready to go. Like to create a perfect balance between having details and having an optimized mesh is really important. And even saving like one vertex is such a huge deal when you're making games, because in every scene there is a budget. Like in this specific scene, there has to be like only few million polygons at a time. So balancing that budget is very important for games. Almost every AAA games, you have to be very optimized with everything so that your game runs at 60 fps. So if I'm going to move that, and now as I said, we are going to add one more geometry like that. And then I'm going to move it outside like this. So this is kind of a game changer. Also, we are doing everything inside of free software from starting to end inside Blender, and damn, this software is something else. And as I said, like in my previous videos as well, that baking inside Blender is very underrated feature. I have never almost seen anyone talk about it, and that is the reason why I'm making this video, so that you guys can get familiar with this concept of baking and how useful it is to have it in your workflow. So yeah, now this will have a little bit more detail than previous one, and the bake is also going to be a little bit different. So we went to now 336 sorry 170 word count, um, which is really good. Now I'm going to go ahead and bake it again. So first thing is first, let's bake our diffuse texture. Even though you might not need to bake the diffuse again, but yeah, some color information will still change. So I'm just going to do that anyways. So select your high poly, low poly, and then let's do the same thing. Let's go ahead and change it to a diffuse, and keep everything same. And I don't think that UV map is uh, any different. Like it is still the same. You don't have to unwrap it again, but if you want, you can do that as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and bake the color information again. You can totally ignore this circular dependency warning. It just happens sometimes. I don't know what that warning means. Okay, so we now have a much more compacted texture. Now we might have a little bit more details over there. I haven't saved anything, so I'm just going to go ahead and save it again. So this is going to overwrite our previous save location, and now we got the settings over there. Okay, so now let's just go ahead and bake normals again. So select that, select this, make sure it is on the normals, and we are going to bake normals again. Now this is going to take a drastic change because the clipping is not that much anymore, and also we will get a little bit more detail out of it. So let's just hit bake again. Okay, so baking is done. I'm just going to go ahead and save this again. It will overwrite the old file, and now let's hide the high poly. And in the rendered view, as you can see, we got now more details over that section, and this is much more optimized mesh than using a decimate modifier. So in general, I'll say that if you want to have more details now, all you have to do is just increase the amount of detail in that area with adding more geometry, and you will almost see no difference in between them. And the lighting will also react to it. So if this is something very far away, and even if it is close, I don't think it matters that much. But yeah, the details, they are still the same on both of them, and it looks almost pretty same. So yeah, that's how you optimize, or you can say make assets for games from any of the Photoscan assets or any high resolution asset that you have totally inside Blender. By the way, I'm also going to talk how to do this with some external software, texture painting software, mostly like Substance Painter. So for that, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel and ring the bell notification icon at any point of this video. By the way, if you have any doubt, you can ask them in the comment section below, or you can join our Discord server. People are joining over there. One day, like, it will be so many people over that community that I might not even be able to answer every one of your questions, but I seriously will try to do that. Yeah, so you can join the Discord server, or even you can help each other out if you know anything. So yeah, I'm trying to build a very friendly community of 3D artists and even game developers. So yeah, join over there, have a friendly chat. So this Blender file, if you want to try it out by yourself, this Blender file will be available on my Ko-fi, and it will be for free for everyone. Everything that I do in this tutorial is for you guys. It will always be free on my Ko-fi. So yeah, if you want this Blender file, it is available. Link will be in the description below. And do try the texture baking method of Blender. It is really fun to use. That's it for this video. Hope you all learned something new, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video tutorial. Bye bye.